I want to start today with a feeling that I think is going to be, well, it's going to be uncomfortably familiar to a lot of people listening right now.
Okay.
It's that sensation you get on a Sunday night, the sun goes down, the weekend is technically still happening, but your brain has already left the building.
The Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
It's a very real physiological response.
It's more than just scaries, though, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
this heavy underlying belief that to get where we want to go, whether that's a promotion or financial freedom or just being a good parent,
Right.
we have to add more.
More hours.
More hours, more effort, more stress. It's the equation we've been taught since, I don't know, grade school. Input equals output.
Right. It's linear thinking. It feels intuitive. If you want twice the results, you have to do twice the work. If you want to be twice as rich, you need to work twice as hard. That's what we call the fast track.
But here is the problem, and this is why we're doing this deep dive today. We have a stack of sources, articles, books, manifestos that are looking at that linear equation and basically saying, this is a lie.
A complete fiction.
They aren't just saying it's difficult or unpleasant. They're saying it is mathematically fundamentally wrong.
It is a bit of a shock to the system, to be honest. We are diving into Living the 80-20 Way by Richard Koff as our primary text, but we're also layering in some other fascinating material.
Right. We've got Find More with Less by Dan DeMark, and also this concept of Swedish death cleaning.
Which sounds a bit morbid, but stick with us. When you put these three together, you get a premise that feels almost dangerous to say out loud in a corporate environment.
Which is
That modern life, as we've organized it, is a mistake.
a mistake.
Yeah, Richard Koch actually opens his argument with that specific line. Modern life is a mistake.
That is a heavy opener. I assume he's not talking about like antibiotics or indoor plumbing being a mistake. I'm quite fond of those.
No, thankfully.
Huh.
He's not anti-progress. He's talking about the more with more cycle, the grind. He argues that we feel forced to choose between these two paths.
The two tracks you mentioned.
Exactly. There's the fast track, the burnout, the high salary, the anxiety, the constant connectivity, or there's the slow track, which usually implies you've given up, you're flacking, you're earning less, you're becoming irrelevant.
It feels like a trap. It really does. Either I kill myself working or I fail. Those are the only two options on the menu.
Exactly. And our mission today for you is to show that there is a third door,
Yeah.
a hidden path. Koch calls it the 80-20 way.
And the argument is you can actually achieve more significantly more by doing significantly less.
And I know hearing that, the skepticism radar just goes off immediately.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like an infomercial. Work 4 hours a week and become a millionaire from your laptop on a beach.
Right. But what I loved about this deep dive is that we aren't just relying on self-help slogans. We're looking at math. We're looking at patterns that show up in economics, in nature, even in how your carpet wears out.
The carpet example is actually my favorite because it's so mundane, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
It's the perfect illustration.
We will definitely get to the carpet, but let's start with the foundation. To understand the solution, we have to understand the mechanism. Most people have heard of the 80-20 rule, right? The Pareto principle. It gets thrown around in business meetings all the time.
Sure. Vilfredo Pareto. He was an Italian economist back in the late 1800s. And the story goes that he noticed a pattern in his vegetable garden, of all places.
A garden, not in like stock market charts.
No, in his garden. He saw that 20% of his pea pods were producing 80% of the peas.
So most of the pods were just duds.
Pretty much. They were taking up space, using water and soil, but not really delivering. Now, being an economist, he got curious. He didn't just stop at peas. He looked at land ownership in Italy at the time.
And he found.
The exact same ratio.
Right.
80% of the land was owned by just 20% of the population.
Okay, so we have peas and we have Italian real estate. That's a coincidence. But Koch argues this isn't just a coincidence. He calls it a universal law.
This is where we have to shift our brain a little bit. Because as humans, we are wired for linearity. We expect a 50-50 world.
Fairness?
Exactly. Fairness. If I have 10 friends, I expect to like them all roughly the same amount. If I hire 10 employees, I expect them to contribute roughly the same amount of value. If I work 8 hours, I expect 8 hours worth of output.
We crave that balance. We want the input to match the output. It feels just.
We do. But the universe doesn't care about fairness. The universe is wonky. That's the term Koch uses. It's a great word. The world is naturally radically lopsided. The relationship between cause and effect is almost never 50-50. It's rarely even 60-40.
Okay, you mentioned the carpet earlier. Break that down for me because I'm sitting in my living room right now looking at my rug and I need to understand this.
Okay, look at your living room. You probably paid for 100% of that carpet. You
Yeah.
vacuum 100% of that carpet. But if you actually track your footsteps, the physical wear and tear, where are you walking?
I mean, from the door to the couch, maybe a little path to the kitchen, that's about it.
Right. You are using maybe 20% of the surface area for 80 or even 90% of your walking. The corners,
Untouched.
under the bookshelf, behind the TV.
Pristine. They're getting zero return on investment for the space they take up.
So 20% of the carpet is doing 80% of the work. And this applies to everything. Look at a map of England or the U.S. 20% of the cities hold 80% of the population.
You see these huge swaths of land with almost nobody in them.
Exactly. Look at crime statistics. This is a consistent one across almost every police precinct in the world. 20% of the criminals commit 80% of the crimes. It's a known phenomenon.
Okay, hold on. You mentioned beer in the notes. I'm trying to figure out how a pint of lager explains the secrets of the universe.
It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But stick with me. Picture a pint of beer. Physically, what is it?
It's liquid, mostly water, I assume, some alcohol.
Exactly. It's about 99% water and grain alcohol. If you were paying based on volume or mass, you were paying for the water. But if I handed you a glass of water and grain alcohol, would you pay $8 for it?
I'd pour it down the sink. It would be disgusting.
Right. So where is the value? The thing that makes it beer, the thing you actually open your wallet for, comes from the hops, the yeast, the specific flavorings. That is maybe a fraction of 1% of the total volume.
So the mass is totally irrelevant to the value. The tiny little bit is what makes it what it is.
That is the 80-20 principle, or in this case, the 991 principle, in physical form. The trivial many, the water, carries the vital few, the hops. And Koch argues your workday is exactly the same.
How so?
You have 8 hours of water, emails, commuting, meetings that go nowhere, chatting by the coffee machine, carrying maybe 10 minutes of hops.
That one decision or that one insight that actually generates revenue or solves a problem.
That's the stuff. The rest is just the liquid it's floating in.
He even mentions the super wonky stats. It gets even more extreme than 80-20, like
Yeah.
with movies.
Right. It's not always 80-20. Sometimes it's 991 or even more skewed. Think about acting. 1% of movie stars earn probably 80 or 90% of the total acting salaries in Hollywood. It's a winner-take-all dynamic.
And what about that experiment? The 6 degrees of separation.
Oh, the Stanley Milgram experiment. It's a classic. This is the one where they tried to send packages to a stockbroker in Boston, right?
Correct. They gave packages to random people in Nebraska and said, get this to a specific stockbroker in Boston, but you can only mail it to someone you know on a first-name basis.
And the famous part is that most packages made it in about 6 hops. 6 degrees of separation.
Right, that's what everyone knows.
But the fascinating detail, the 80-20 detail that most people miss, is that half of the packages that actually arrived were funneled through just 3 people in Boston.
3 people out of all the possible connections.
3 people. Hundreds of starters in Nebraska, but only 3 super connectors in Boston. Those 3 people were the 20%, or really the 0.1%, that held the entire network together.
So if we accept this, if we accept that the world is wonky, that the universe is lopsided, what is the philosophical shift we have to make? Because we are taught more with more. What is the alternative?
Well, Koch distinguishes between less is more and more with less. They sound similar, but they are different stages of the process.
Okay, walk me through less is more first.
Less is more is about focus. It's about identification. It's looking at your life and saying, if 20% of my activities are giving me 80% of my happiness or my income, I need to identify those things and ruthlessly discard the rest.
That's the subtraction part. That's the Swedish death cleaning part you mentioned earlier, getting rid of the junk.
Exactly. It's about clearing the decks.
And then more with less.
That is about progress. That is the leverage. That is saying, okay, now that I've identified that powerful 20%, how do I use that to generate huge outputs? It's like the shift from hunting and gathering to farming.
Okay, explain that analogy. How so?
A hunter-gatherer is working 100% of the time. They are running, searching, expending energy for every single calorie they find. It's a linear relationship.
1 hour of hunting equals maybe 1 rabbit, if you're lucky.
Exactly. It's high effort for moderate reward.
Yeah.
The farmer, on the other hand, plants a seed. That's a high leverage action, a 20% action.
And then?
Then he waits. He lets nature or compound interest or systems do the work. He gets 1,000 calories of wheat for a fraction of the caloric input of the hunter. He has decoupled effort from reward.
The question he poses to the listener, and I want to pose this to you right now, is devastatingly simple.
It's the question that keeps you up at night.
If 20% of your work leads to 80% of your success, why are you doing the other 80%?
And the answer is usually habit, guilt, or simply not knowing which 20% is doing the heavy lifting.
Right. And this leads us directly into the resource we feel we are most short of: time.
Always time.
We are obsessed with time management. I've read a dozen books on it. I've tried the Pomodoro technique. I've tried time blocking my calendar to within an inch of its life. But our sources say time management is actually a trap.
It is. It's a huge trap. Think about the phrase time management. It implies that time is this scarce, limited resource that we have to hoard and organize. The goal of traditional time management is to fit more things into the box.
Right. How can I answer 100 emails in an hour instead of 50? How can I cram 5 meetings into an afternoon instead of 3?
Exactly. It's designed to speed up the hamster wheel. Koch argues for a time revolution. He says we aren't actually short of time. That's an illusion. We are awash in time.
I have to say, that doesn't feel true. I feel like I'm drowning.
You feel like you're drowning because you are drowning in low-quality time. You're spending your time on that 80% of activities that yield almost nothing.
The water in the beer.
All water.
Yeah.
Imagine if you eliminated the 80% of meetings that don't decide anything. Imagine if you eliminated the 80% of emails that are just FYI or CC'd to everyone. Suddenly, you'd have days of free time.
There's this great story in the book about the Wall Street trader and the Zen master. I think this really nails the mindset shift we need.
I love this story. It's a parable for our times. So, this high-flying Wall Street trader, he decides he needs spiritual enlightenment. He's made his millions, but he's stressed out of his mind.
He wants to optimize his soul.
He does. He goes to a monastery in Japan, he meets the Zen master, and asks straight to the point, how long does it usually take to reach enlightenment? The master says, 7 years.
And the trader's like, whoa, 7 years? I don't have that kind of time. I have a firm to run back in New York.
Exactly. He immediately starts negotiating with the universe. He says, look, I'm a high performer. I went to Harvard. I worked at Goldman Sachs. I am incredibly efficient. If I double my effort, if I work through the nights, if I optimize my meditation schedule, can I do it faster? How long will it take then?
And the master just smiles.
The master smiles and says, in that case, it'll take you 14 years.
That is the perfect encapsulation of the more with more failure. By rushing, by trying to cram more in, he was actually moving backward. He was making it worse.
Sophocles said, time is a gentle god. When you are in the zone, when you are doing that high-value 20% work, time expands. It doesn't feel rushed. Think about Archimedes in the bath.
The eureka moment.
Exactly. He wasn't grinding at a desk. He wasn't checking his KPIs or answering emails. He was relaxing. He was in a state of flow or openness. That was an achievement island.
Let's define that term because Koch uses it a lot. Islands of experience.
He breaks our time into these islands. We have happiness islands. These are the small dollops of time. Maybe it's only 20% of your week where you are genuinely, truly happy.
Not just numb, not just distracted by Netflix, but actually happy, connected, alive.
Right. The goal of the 80-20 way is to identify those islands and expand them. Why should they only be 20%? Why can't they be 40% or 60%?
And achievement islands are just the productivity version of that.
Yes. The moments where you do something brilliant.
Yeah.
Where you write the proposal that wins the client or you have the conversation that fixes the relationship. That usually happens in very short, intense bursts of clarity.
So the actionable advice here, and this is something I want to try, I really do, is the not to-do list.
Well, we all have to-do lists, and they usually terrifyingly long and they make us feel guilty. Koch suggests you need a not to-do list. You need to explicitly write down the 80% of time wasters that you will no longer do.
Give me some examples. What goes on a not to-do list? Because it feels a little abstract.
Okay. I will not check email before 10 a.m. That's a big one for a lot of people. I will not attend meetings that do not have a clear agenda sent out beforehand.
Ooh, that would eliminate half my week.
It would. Or I will not have coffee with people who just want to pick my brain without a specific purpose. You have to aggressively prune the low-quality time to make room for the islands.
It reminds me of that idea that you can't manage time, you can only manage your attention. And that's what this is really about.
Precisely. Your attention is the real currency.
Let's move to the workplace, because this is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of us. We have this idea of what a good employee or a good leader looks like.
Oh yeah, we have a very clear picture. Hardworking, diligent, first one in, last one out. A team player, well-rounded.
And Koch blows that up with a little help from the German military, of all things.
He brings up General von Manstein's matrix of officers. This is a fascinating way to look at talent, and it completely, utterly contradicts modern HR policies.
I love this matrix. It's so counterintuitive. He divides officers into 4 categories based on 2 axes: lazy versus hardworking and stupid versus intelligent.
Right. So let's start with category 1, lazy and stupid.
Sounds like a firing offense to me. Immediately.
Surprisingly, no. Von Manstein says, leave them alone. They're harmless. They won't do anything great, but they won't break anything either. They'll just sit there. They are filler.
They don't cause any trouble. Okay, category 2, hardworking and intelligent.
Now, these sound like your star employees, your A players. Von Manstein says these make excellent staff officers. They are detail-oriented. They will catch every typo. They will ensure the logistics are perfect. You need these people to keep the machine running.
Makes sense. Okay, category 3, hardworking and stupid.
This is the danger zone. He says these people must be fired immediately.
Fired immediately. Why? They're working hard. They're putting in the hours.
Because they are energetic but wrong. They create irrelevant work. They will have the whole team efficiently digging ditches in the wrong direction.
No, I know these people.
They create noise and confusion. They send the emails that confuse the project. They hold the meetings that waste everyone's time. They are active but destructive. They are a net negative.
And then the final category, which is the most surprising of all, lazy and intelligent.
The lazy and intelligent. Von Manstein says these are the best. These are suited for the highest office. These are your field marshals, your generals.
Wait, back up. You want the lazy guy running the army? I feel like if I went into a performance review and told my boss, I'm being lazy today for the good of the company, I'd be escorted out by security.
You might be. But let's look at why Von Manstein said that. What happens if you have a hardworking, intelligent leader?
They get a lot done.
They do. They are smart, yes. But because they are hardworking, they obsess over every detail, they micromanage, they check every soldier's boots, they burn out.
Or they bottleneck the whole system because every single decision has to go through them. Nothing moves without their approval.
Precisely. Now look at the lazy, intelligent officer. He's smart enough to know what needs to be done, but he is too lazy to do it himself. So what does he do?
He has to delegate. He has no choice.
He delegates ruthlessly. He finds the simplest, most direct path to the solution because he can't be bothered with the complicated one. He focuses only on the essentials because he wants to get back to reading his book or taking a nap. He strips away complexity. That is the essence of the 80-20 manager.
That is such a flip on how we usually think. We usually think the guy staying late every night is the hero. He's the dedicated one. But in this model, he might just be inefficient. Or worse, hardworking and stupid.
Society praises the hardworking intelligent. But the true stars, the game changers, are often the lazy intelligent. They see the shortcut everyone else misses.
This leads to another concept from the book that I found really liberating. The lopsided star.
Yes.
We're told in school, from day one, to be well-rounded. If you are good at English but bad at math, the school doesn't say, great, forget math, go write a novel.
No, they say, get a tutor for math. We need to bring that C up to a B.
And Cox says that is a massive, massive mistake. He says successful people are lopsided. They have these huge 20% spikes super strengths where they are world-class.
Yeah.
And they often have massive weaknesses where they are arguably incompetent.
He uses himself as a case study, which is pretty brave.
He does. He talks about his time at the Boston Consulting Group, a very prestigious firm. He was trying to be the hardworking, intelligent consultant. He was trying to be well-rounded, good at the models, good at the presentations, good at the politics.
And he failed. He wasn't a good fit for the culture. He essentially got pushed out.
So what changed? How did he become successful?
He stopped trying to fix his weaknesses. He realized his spike, his superpower, was ideas, enthusiasm, and connecting concepts from different fields. He wasn't good at the grunt work or the administration.
So he leaned into the lopsidedness.
Totally. He started his own firm where he could be lazy, meaning he focused entirely on the big ideas and the client relationships, and he partnered with people who loved the details, the people who were hardworking and intelligent.
That is the strategy. Don't fix your weaknesses. That just leads to mediocrity. You'll just be average at everything. Instead, focus entirely on your spikes. Outsource the rest.
There is a great example of a guy named Steve, a restaurant owner. This story really highlights the pain of trying to be well-rounded when you're not.
Tell us about Steve.
So Steve opens a restaurant. And like most small business owners, he tries to do everything himself. He's in the back doing the books. He's trying to manage the inventory. He's helping in the kitchen when they're busy.
He's the well-rounded owner.
Exactly. And the restaurant is struggling. It's failing. The food is inconsistent. The vibe is off. The numbers are terrible.
Because he's spread too thin, he's mediocre at everything.
Right. But then a consultant convinces him to do an 80-20 analysis. Asks him, what are you actually genuinely uniquely good at? And he realizes his spike is the front of house. He's charming. He makes people feel like kings when they walk in. He's the host.
That's his 20%.
That's his 20%. So what did he do? He fired himself from the kitchen. He fired himself from the accounting. He hired a great chef and a good bookkeeper, people who were better than him at those things. And he spent 100% of his time on the floor, greeting guests, pouring wine, creating the atmosphere.
And the result?
The restaurant took off. It became the hottest spot in town. Because the value, the 20% that made the restaurant special, was Steve's personality. The rest was just water in the beer. Once he focused on the hops, he won.
It's about authenticity, stripping away the actor you think you're supposed to be to find the unique self.
That's exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the thing that drives a lot of that hard work. Money. Koch has a chapter called The Mystery of Money. And again, the 80-20 principle applies here in a big, big way.
Money is inherently 80-20. It's almost the perfect example. Money clones money. This is Pareto's original discovery. Wealth is never distributed evenly. But the mechanism for us as individuals, the thing that regular people can use, is compound interest.
We all know we should save, but he breaks it down with this comparison between Aaron and Allison. I want to walk through the math because it's startling.
It's a stunning math example.
Yeah.
So you have Aaron. He starts saving a small amount, let's say $1,600 a year when he's very young, maybe 19 or 20 years old. He does this for just a few years, maybe until he's 26. And then he stops. He never puts another penny in.
So he puts in a tiny amount of capital, but he does it super early.
Right. Then you have Allison. She waits. She wants to enjoy her 20s. She waits until she has a good job and a high salary to start saving. She starts at age 27. And she saves faithfully every single year until she's 65.
So she puts in way more money than Aaron. Decades more.
Way, way more. But who wins?
Aaron wins. It's not even close, is it? It takes Allison decades to even catch up to him.
Right. Even if she saves 5 times as much as Aaron per year, the head start that Aaron got, those early years of compounding, are the 20% causes that create the 80% results.
It's the time. It's not the amount of money you put in. It's the amount of time the money has to work.
Because the 80% of the growth comes from the compounding over time, not the effort of the saving itself. It's the lazy, intelligent approach to wealth. Let the money do the work for you.
But there is a trap here, too, which he talks about. The high earner trap. We see this all the time.
Yes. You see people with huge salaries who are effectively poor.
Yeah.
They have no assets. They spend everything they make or more to maintain the lifestyle that the high salary demands.
The expensive suits, the luxury car lease, the house in the right zip code, the private schools.
They are on the fast track, running at 100 miles per hour, but they have zero financial independence. If they lose their job, they're broke in a month.
This connects to the concept from the book Your Money or Your Life, which is referenced in our stack, the idea of life energy.
This is a crucial pivot in thinking. We usually think of things costing dollars. This coffee costs $5. But Your Money or Your Life asks you to calculate your real hourly wage.
Which isn't just your salary divided by the hours you're at the office.
No, not at all. You have to subtract all the hidden costs of working. The commute, the gas, the work clothes, the lunches out, the decompressing time you need at night, the takeout food you buy because you're too tired to cook.
Once you factor all that in, your real wage might be quite low. Shockingly low.
So the goal isn't just being rich in a Scrooge McDuck sense, having a vault of gold coins.
No, the goal is using money to buy back your time. It's buying your freedom. If you are spending $200 on a fancy dinner, you shouldn't ask, do I have $200? You should ask, is this dinner worth X hours of my life energy? Is it worth 2 days of freedom?
That question changes everything.
There is a parable that sums this up perfectly. The Mexican fisherman. I think this is my favorite part of the whole deep dive, and I want to tell it properly because it really lands the point.
It's a classic. Set the scene for us.
Okay. So you have this American investment banker, a Harvard MBA, naturally. He's on vacation in a small coastal village in Mexico. He's standing on the pier, and he sees a fisherman docking his small boat. Inside the boat, there are just a few large, beautiful yellowfin tuna.
And the banker, being a banker, is impressed by the asset quality.
He is. He compliments the fisherman on the quality of the fish and asks, how long did it take you to catch those? The fisherman says, only a little while. The banker says, why didn't you stay out longer and catch more?
And this is the key. The fisherman says, I have enough to support my family's immediate needs.
Simple as that. So the banker asks, but what do you do with the rest of your time?
And the fisherman smiles. He says, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take a siesta with my wife, stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life.
And you can just feel the MBA's brain kicking into gear. He can't help himself. He sees inefficiency.
He scoffs. He says, look, I am a Harvard MBA, and I can help you. You should spend more time fishing. With the proceeds, you buy a bigger boat. With the proceeds from the bigger boat, you could buy several boats. Eventually, you would have a fleet of fishing boats.
Instead of selling to a middleman, the banker says, you would open your own cannery. You would control the product, the processing, and the distribution. You would need to leave this small coastal fishing village and move to Mexico City, then LA, and eventually New York City, where you will run your expanding enterprise.
The fisherman listens patiently and asks, but senor, how long will all of this take?
The banker does a quick calculation and replies, 15 to 20 years.
But what then, senor?
Yeah.
The fisherman asks.
The banker laughs and says, that's the best part. When the time is right, you would announce an IPO and sell your company stock to the public and become very rich. You would make millions.
Millions, then what?
The banker says, then you would retire. You could move to a small coastal fishing village where you would sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take a siesta with your wife, and stroll to the village in the evenings to sip wine and play guitar with your amigos.
And the silence just hangs there.
Boom! Mic drop.
He is already doing it. Her banker was proposing he destroy his life for 20 years to achieve the life he already had. That is the absurdity that the more with more cycle.
We often destroy our happiness in the pursuit of a future happiness we already possess.
It's a profound story.
It really is. But we have to keep going because we need to apply this to the other big part of life. Relationships.
This is where people get a little uncomfortable with the 80-20 rule. It feels cold. It feels clinical to apply efficiency to friendship. It feels robotic to say, optimize your friends.
Right. It sounds like you're saying, sorry, Bob, you're in the bottom 80% we're cut.
And you don't say it to his face, but the data is undeniable. 80% of your relationship satisfaction comes from 20% of the people in your life.
Usually fewer than 10 people.
Usually fewer than 10, often fewer than 5. But look at how we live. We spread ourselves so thin. We have hundreds of Facebook friends. We have colleagues we feel obligated to get drinks with. We have neighbors we make polite small talk with.
We're managing a huge portfolio of shallow connections.
Exactly. Koch uses the 7-digit phone number analogy, which I thought was brilliant.
Right. Our brains, our working memory, can only hold about 7 digits comfortably. That's why phone numbers were that long. Koch suggests our hearts are similar.
We can only hold a few deep, sustaining connections. When we try to maintain 50 close friends, we end up with 50 shallow acquaintances. We dilute the love.
And there is a warning here in the text about outsourcing relationships.
This is a very modern phenomenon, isn't it? We're busy, so we hire a personal trainer, a therapist, a life coach, a dog walker. We pay people to listen to us or interact with us.
It simulates connection.
It does, but it's transactional. It's not the deep, messy, reciprocal connection of a real friend or partner who you also have to support.
Speaking of partners, how does 80-20 apply to finding love? Because this is the ultimate needle in a haystack problem for a lot of people.
Well, most people use what Koch calls the bus stop approach. They stand there and wait for the first bus that comes along. They date whoever happens to be in their proximity or whoever shows interest in them.
It's a passive.
It's totally passive. Instead of proactive searching based on the 20% of qualities that actually matter for long-term happiness.
What are those qualities?
Koch suggests we get distracted by the 80% of superficial traits, looks, status, coolness. Do they like the same music as me? But the 20% that predicts long-term happiness are things like shared core values, optimism, and the ability to handle conflict constructively.
We have some data here from John Gottman, the famous relationship researcher. He's the guy who can watch a couple argue for 5 minutes and predict with like 90% accuracy if they'll divorce.
Gottman is the master of this, and he says the key signal, the spike that matters more than anything else, is the ability to avoid harsh criticism.
It's not that you don't fight.
No, everyone fights. It's that you don't attack the person's character. You don't say you're lazy. You say, I felt hurt when the trash wasn't taken out. That one distinction is the 80-20 of relationships.
And for families, what about the love spiral?
This is about positive feedback loops. In happy families, praise outweighs blame by a huge margin. It's an upward spiral. You praise a child, they feel good about themselves, they behave better, you praise them more.
And in unhappy families, it's a downward spiral of criticism and acting out.
Constantly. There is an actionable tip here for parents that I've actually started doing with my own kids. Count your yeses and nos.
You mean literally count them?
Literally count them for a day. How many times do you say, no, stop that, or don't to your child, versus, yes, good job, or I love watching you play? If the ratio is off, you are in a negative spiral. You are focusing on the 80% of bad behavior rather than reinforcing the 20% of good behavior.
In the bedtime story concept.
That is the critical 20%. You can be absent or distracted for 12 hours of the day, but if you are fully 100% present for that 20 minutes before sleep, reading, cuddling, connecting, that shapes the child's sense of security more than the other 12 hours combined.
That is the high leverage parenting moment.
Absolutely.
So we have covered work, time, money, love. Now I want to pivot to the internal world, the soul. Because we have these other texts in our stack, Find More with Less by Denmark and the Swedish death cleaning concept. How do these fit in with the hard math of 80-20?
Well, Koch gives us the structural framework, the what, the 80-20 rule. But Denmark and the Swedish concept give us the spiritual and emotional tools to actually execute it. The how. Because letting go is hard. Subtraction is painful for us.
It is hard. We are hoarders by nature, both physically and mentally.
Denmark shifts the focus from external accumulation to presence. He argues that we are cluttered internally. We have mental hoarding.
Mental hoarding. I like that phrase. What does that look like?
It's holding on to old beliefs, old grudges, old identities. I am the busy person. I am the victim. I am the one who always has to fix everything. These are stories we tell ourselves.
They're comfortable, even if they're destructive.
Denmark talks about releasing patterns. This is the spiritual equivalent of the 80-20 rule. You have to identify the thought patterns that are serving you, the 100%, and consciously release the 80% that are just noise or self-sabotage.
And this connects to Swedish death cleaning, which sounds so morbid, but is actually quite beautiful.
It is. The Swedish term is döstädning, and it's usually talking about clearing out your physical junk so you don't leave a burden for your family when you die. It's about not leaving a mess for others.
But the philosophy applies to life right now.
Yes. It's about asking of everything you own or do. Does this object or this habit or this commitment make my life heavier or lighter?
It's about traveling light through life.
Exactly. If you are weighed down by the past, whether that's physical boxes in the attic or emotional baggage in your heart, you cannot travel the 80-20 route. You are too heavy. You can't fit through that third door.
There's a concept called the happiness point that really struck me. It challenges that core American idea that more is always better.
This is a curve that shows that up to a certain point, more effort or more possessions increases happiness. If you have no shoes, getting a pair of shoes makes you much, much happier. If you are starving, food makes you happier.
But past a certain point.
Past the happiness point, the curve flattens and then goes down. More effort actually decreases happiness, becomes a negative.
The second house brings more worry than joy because now you have two roofs to fix.
The promotion brings more stress than satisfaction. We need to find that peak on the curve and stop there. But our culture tells us to just keep climbing, even when we're going downhill.
And that leads to the 505 way.
This is a ruthless heuristic from Denmark. Identify the 50% of your activities that provide only 5% of your happiness and kill them.
Just stop doing them.
Just stop. The weekly meeting you hate. The TV show you don't really like but watch out of habit. The social obligation you dread. Just cut it.
And replace them with?
Simple pleasures. The pleasure chart. Map out things that are cheap and easy but bring you high joy. A walk in the park, reading a book in the sun, a coffee with a true friend, versus the expensive, high-effort pleasures like planning a massive vacation or buying a boat.
We focus on the cheap hops, not the expensive water.
You've got it.
Okay, we are coming into the home stretch here. We have done a lot of thinking today, a lot of analyzing, a lot of math, but our sources end with a very strong message. Thinking isn't enough.
Right. It's a huge trap. You can analyze your 80-20 spikes all day. You can make spreadsheets and charts.
Yeah.
But unless you act, nothing changes. Kashi calls for parsimonious positive action.
Parsimonious meaning stingy, frugal.
Stingy with energy, but decisive with action. Don't run around doing a million things. Do the one thing that matters.
There is a story about twins, Julie and Sandra. It illustrates the difference between thinking and acting, and it's so clear.
Yes. So Julie and Sandra are both shy. They both want to overcome it. Julie buys a book on positive thinking. She sits in her room and does affirmations. She visualizes. She thinks, I am confident. I am a lion.
She's trying to change her mind.
Right. She pumps herself up mentally. She goes to a party, stands in the corner thinking, I am a lion. But she doesn't actually talk to anyone. She leaves feeling like a failure because her thoughts didn't match reality.
And Sandra.
Sandra adopts positive action. She accepts she is shy. She doesn't try to think it away. She just sets a tiny, actionable rule. I will say hello to 3 people within 10 minutes of arriving at the party.
It's a behavior, not a feeling.
It's a behavior. She acts. She is terrified while she does it. Her hands are shaking. But she does it. And the action itself generates the confidence. The feeling follows the action, not the other way around.
It's like Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz.
A sobering but incredibly powerful example. Frankl wrote that he didn't survive on positive thinking. It was unrealistic to be optimistic in a death camp. The optimist often died of broken hearts when liberation didn't come by Christmas as they'd hoped.
So what did he survive on?
He survived on positive action. He rewrote his lost manuscript in his head, scrap by scrap. He comforted other prisoners. He gave away his last piece of bread. He found meaning through doing, through his choices, even when the thinking was bleak.
So the lesson is, act your way into a new way of thinking. Don't try to think your way into a new way of acting.
Precisely. And don't wait for the perfect plan to start acting. This is the final story I want to leave you with. The map of the Pyrenees.
Tell us.
So this is a story about a Hungarian military unit in the Alps during the war. They are sent out on a reconnaissance mission. A terrible snowstorm hits. For 2 days, there is no radio contact. The commanders back at base assume they are dead, lost to the elements.
They are lost in the ice, no hope.
They are lost, freezing, and giving up hope. But then, on the 3rd day, they march back into camp. Everyone is alive. Stunned, the commander asks the lieutenant how they survived.
How did they do it?
The lieutenant explains. He said, "We were resigned to die." But then one of the soldiers found a map in his pocket. We calmed down. We pitched a tent. We waited out the worst of the storm. And then, using the map, we found our bearings and we marched out.
The map saved them, a miracle.
It did. But here is the twist. The commander took the map from the lieutenant and looked at it. And he realized. It wasn't a map of the Alps. It was a map of the Pyrenees.
The wrong mountain.
The totally wrong mountains. A map of a mountain range on the border of Spain and France while they were in Switzerland. It was completely useless, objectively speaking.
But it saved them. How? Why?
Because it gave them a direction. It gave them the confidence to move. If they waited for the perfect map, if they had sat there debating the perfect route, they would have frozen to death. The act of moving, the act of having a plan, even a wrong plan, was better than paralysis.
Any plan is better than no plan.
Exactly. You don't need the perfect 80-20 analysis to start. You don't need to know exactly which 20% is the magic number yet. You just need to pick a direction and start walking.
Wow. Okay. That is a lot to process. We have gone from carpet wear to Mexican fishermen to maps of the wrong mountains. But the thread is so clear. Less really is more, not just as a slogan, but as a survival strategy.
It is. And it's not just a strategy, it's a discipline. It takes courage to do less in a world that screams at you to do more. It takes courage to be the fisherman when everyone you know wants you to be the banker.
So here's the final provocative thought for you listening right now. You currently have a to-do list. It's probably on your phone or a notepad, and it's probably stressing you out. Can you tear it up today?
Can you replace it with a not-to-do list?
And can you ask yourself, what is the 120% spike, that one thing you are weirdly, uniquely good at, that you are ignoring because you are too busy trying to be average at everything else?
That's the challenge. Stop trying to be the banker.
Yeah. Be the fisherman. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.